And here we go. Hi, y'all. I've been spending today. Well, first of all, let me stop. First of all, my name is Wayne D. Ashford. I am 60 years old, and I have been through the ringer this past year and almost a half. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from the Midwest, Omaha, Nebraska. I have been here in North Carolina for almost 15 years. And as I've said, I've been through hell the last year, almost year and a half. Let me explain. In late 2014, my wife, of whom I was married to for almost 19 years, was stricken with cancer. It was something that devastated almost our whole family, but in particular, myself, her children, and her grandkids, as well as the rest of the family. And for the next roughly 4 years, I watched this disease ravage her body, but it did not ravage her spirit. It did not break her. If anything, it drew her closer to God. Not to say that she was never close to God in her own personal walk. When I met her, that woman was more of a Christian than most Christian women I know that go to church 24/7. Having said that, I think this disease, aside from the negativity it produced, also produced some good from it. It drew her closer to God. It humbled her even more so. Almost made her completely Christ-like in her character. When she passed away, I died with her. Inside. I still feel dead inside. But to be totally honest, this past year and a half has been a year and a half of learning about relationships, learning about myself. It's been learning about the people around me, my family. I don't really have any friends outside of my family. I don't really have anyone who I can hang out with and I'm close to. This past year and a half has been about growth, I guess. Personal growth. On top of having lost my wife, I found myself homeless. It wasn't something I planned. It was something that happened as a result of high cost of living here in Asheville. By the way, I'm currently in Canton, North Carolina. Not that it's much better out here, but at any rate, I found myself upon losing her, finding myself homeless. And for almost 5 months, I found myself on the street. Well, more like 3.5, almost 4 months. So for those 4 months or so, I found myself on the street with no one to turn to. My being homeless was not something I had wanted nor planned, although I was told by a certain family member that it's my fault, and it turned out that it was never my fault. I knew in the back of my mind it wasn't my fault, but sometimes the devil will use the very people in your life. It don't matter if it's family, friends, co-workers, folks you go to church with. He will find someone to bring you down negatively. Now, having said that, I should have just said, screw it and kill myself. But what kept me going? How do you keep going when everything's against you? I didn't have a car to sleep in. It was difficult to hold down a job when you don't have nowhere to go at night to sleep and it's cold outside, or you don't want to risk going into a shelter and being harassed by other homeless people or by the staff. It's difficult to find somewhere you can lay your head at night without being harassed by the police. And people look at you as if you're trash or garbage or filth, worse, like a pile of crap. While at the same time, they all have a nice, comfortable home to go live in. Like I said, I've been through crap this past year and a half. Death, homelessness, joblessness, watching my family fall apart. And I learned something. See, let me explain myself. I'm a big nerd geek. I love Doctor Who. I love science fiction. I've written a few comics. I write. I draw. I like to go to comic book conventions, especially with my grandkids when we can go and just have fun. Do the things that I love. Expose my grandkids to what I grew up on. Let them know there's a bigger world outside than what they see, say, in the ghetto. Now, having said that, what kept me going when I lost my wife, when I found myself homeless, when it was hard for me to hold down a job because I didn't have anywhere to sleep at night, and the money that I did make from working, I couldn't afford anything because everything in Asville, yeah, I said Asville. You can tell I have a lot of love for that place. Everything in Asville cost you your arm, leg, and firstborn. What kept me going? How did I make it? As I reflect back on the end of this year, today is the 28th, now about to soon become the 29th. How did I make it? Well, one reason I made it is because of my family. Now, I'm not saying my whole family was supportive. As I just said earlier, I had a family member who made it feel like it was my damn fault that I was homeless. When I knew in the back of my mind, for a fact, I knew the truth that it wasn't my fault. But that's what that person said to me. Even treated me like filth. When I came to visit certain people in my family, I was made to feel as if I was a bum or some sort of crack addict who don't take a bath, and told to leave my things outside their house. They didn't want no critters running around. As if I walk around with a suitcase full of cockroaches. That's how that person made me feel. But there were other people in my family that knew better, that knew the truth, and stood by my side when I really should have just said screw it and end it all. My daughter, my sons, my grandchildren, those were the ones who stood by me because they've been through the shit. They saw what I went through. We all went through it together. So that's one reason why I'm still here. Another strange reason is because, and you're going to think this is crazy, but bear with me. Try to follow my line of thinking. Another reason is that because of my love of all things nerd and geeky, especially science fiction, horror, fantasy, one of the main characters that I grew up on as a child was Godzilla. Now you might ask yourself, how in the hell does a giant monster movie or giant movie monster help you survive what you've been gone through? If you ever watch those movies, or any monster movie, what's the one thing that is in common with all monster movies? Every time they killed a monster, it comes back. Michael Myers, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Godzilla, Blackula. Every time they kill the bastards, they come back. They won't die, or they won't stay dead. I looked at those movies and I learned an important lesson from watching Godzilla. No matter how much you throw at him, who you throw at him, what you throw at him, I don't care if it's a scientific portal to suck him into a black hole in space. I don't care if it's King Ghidorah. I don't care if it's Mechagodzilla. Every time they threw something or someone at him, he'd go right through them like toilet paper. He'd go right through them like an erector set. Even when he was wounded and about to die, he still would fight on. Fought King Kong, came back. Fought King Ghidorah, whooped his butt in the end several times over. Mechagodzilla, a Tinker toy set, ripped his darn head off. Lesson number 2 I learned was that in order to survive something tragic, you have to die. You have to die. But not physically. It feels like something inside you is going to break, it's going to just fall apart and you won't make it. But then you stop and you think, tomorrow's another day. When I laid my head down to sleep on my makeshift bed, which was a bedroll actually, a couple of blankets, an air mattress, and a jacket or two to keep me warm. As I laid down at night, I thought, okay, I'm not around any other people who might harm me or might mess with me. I'm in a fairly safe place. I slept in churches, not inside church, but on church grounds. I slept in a greenhouse on school property. When it was cold and rainy and I couldn't sleep outside, I slept in a greenhouse. I realized I was a lot like Godzilla. You kill me, but I rise every time. In the morning, I would rise. At night, I would lay down. I had been through the battle of disparagement, discouragement. I've been through the battle of doubt. I've been through the battle of emotional and mental anguish, which brings me to my third and final reason why I'm still here in 2019 as it prepares to go out and usher in 2020. The third reason I'm here, Jesus told me it's not your time. It was God who ultimately brought me through my hell. It was God who ultimately said, I have a plan for you, but I need you to let go and let God and trust me. The times I found myself closest to God or should have been closest to God was when I was laying on the street at night and had nowhere to go. Had to scrounge around for food to eat. Had to lie on certain jobs that I had in order to hide my shame of being homeless. Because I didn't want no one to take pity on me and feel sorry for me. And I was fearful that if they found out, they might treat me differently. They might fire me. They might fire me. That was my main fear. So all through this past year and a half, I've learned something about myself. You have to find your strength ultimately in Christ Jesus. That's the only way you're going to make it in this world. Whether you believe in God or not is not my concern. But I can tell you, if you don't have faith in something outside yourself, you'll die. You can put your faith in New Age. You can put your faith in sitting in the chair, think it won't collapse under your weight. You can put your faith in a juniper tree and hug it until your arms fall off. That's not real faith. Real faith comes when you go through the test, the trial, the fire, and you wonder why you're still here. One of my favorite wrestlers was and still is The Undertaker. I look at his matches and I see that every time they threw someone bigger, stronger, badder than him, he come out on top. He kicked their ass, just like Godzilla. And that's why I've learned this past year that the only way to persevere in this world is you have to learn how to kick ass. And how do you do that? You have to get on your knees. Now, by all means, I'm not calling myself a saint. I'm far from it. As you hear, I still curse. I still have an attitude. I still have a temper. But through it all, I've learned some things about myself I otherwise wouldn't have learned. I learned I'm not a loser. I'm not a misfit. I'm not a joke. I am what God made me. Maybe other people don't understand that. To hell with that. I have my own personality. I have my own way of doing things. I have gifts that only God above gave to me. One of those gifts, as I mentioned earlier, is writing and drawing. I've been writing since late 1983, about March or, well, a little before, I'd say March of 1993. That's how long I've been writing. And now I'm at a point in my life where hopefully next year I can share those gifts outright with the world. But I want to share this video and pray God that it will bless someone. And it's mainly this: whatever you're going through. I don't care if it's death, loss of a loved one, if it's divorce, if it's separation, if it's homelessness, if it's illness, if it's joblessness or low wage job and you don't know how you're going to afford getting a place to stay, whatever it is, know this: God has a plan. You may not believe it, but He does, and He does exist. And I dare you just one time to try Him. Just do it. One time. Just say, you don't have to say no fancy prayer. You don't have to be eloquent in your speech. Just be who you are and say, God, I need help. If you exist, show me what to do, because I have nothing left. It's when you run out of options, that's when God can step in and say, your plan didn't work. Now let's try mine. I can tell you this: everyone who doubted me, everyone who thought I was a loser or a misfit or a joke, I'm not. I'm still here. And as 2020 comes in, I got news for you. Lord is already blessing me. The next time I do a video, hopefully you will see that blessing. It's already happened. I already did my part and I'm continuing to do my part. And God is slowly working with me. He's stepping in and filling the places where I can't fill in the cracks or the voids. He's taking care of that. He just told me to walk in faith and to hold my hand is His. The problem with a lot of us, myself included, is we don't hold on to God's hand very long, if at all. But I dare you to try Him. I dare you to say, Jesus, just one time. If you don't believe in God or you have doubts if God would answer your prayer, ask Him for something that you know that you don't think nobody else will grant you, but that you believe He will grant you. It might be a house. Maybe you're homeless. Maybe you need a new vehicle to get to and from work, or or to help your family out, and you can't help them out because you have no way to get to them. Maybe it's a job that doesn't pay much, or you can't find a job. Maybe it's a place to stay. Maybe it's a loved one who's sick. Maybe you're sick. Maybe, God forbid, you have cancer. And the doctors have told you, well, you only have 4 days left to live. They told my wife, I think, that she only had something like 6 weeks or 6 months. But God said, no. They didn't ask me how long you've got. And God gave her 4 years. So God is the final judge, jury, and say so when it comes to negativity. When it comes to the output or outcome of what men say, He is the one that created man in His image, in His likeness. So He has the final say so, not man. But I dare you to try Him, to ask Him for something that you don't think you deserve or that you don't think you will get. You ask Him, you watch what He does. You step back in faith and you let Him do His part and you do your part. If He says, I want you to read your Bible, read it. I want you to pray more, do it. I want you to go to work and save up your money, do it. Whatever it takes. But let God do His part. And I promise you, you ask Him this one time, I promise you, things that you didn't think would happen, they're going to start snapping. They're going to start popping. They're going to start going off, and you're going to be looking around and say, how did that happen? And you already going to know the answer before it even comes out of your mouth. God, Jesus did this. And all He wants from you is your trust and your faith and your praise. He ain't asking you to give Him a lot of money. He ain't asking you to give Him anything material, because He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He said in His word, if He was hungry, He wouldn't tell us. But if you go to Him and you say, Jesus, I need help. I need a way to get to and from on my own. I need a way to work and have money in my pocket. God has done it for me. People who have said to me that I will never, that it's my fault that I'm homeless, I don't even worry about that no more. Because right now I'm staying with my 30-year-old son. It's not my own place, but it beats being on the street, especially now that it's winter. That was God working through my daughter and my sons. God provided me with a job for the holiday so I could try to help out my son and get ready to get on my feet. And He's providing me with the means to get on my feet. So the next time you see me on a video, I'm going to be giving Him praise, and I'm going to show you a picture of the fruition of what God does. Peace, y'all.